Hey guys, it's all that jazz. Welcome back to my channel. We're on the road to 2K, so go ahead and join today by clicking that red subscribe button. And thank you so much for 1.5K. That means we are halfway there. So today I just wanted to talk about gentle parenting and get perspective on people's different views on it. If you're not familiar, gentle parenting is based off of different principles, including empathy, respect, and just being in tune emotionally with your kids' feelings. And I'm sure they had it like years ago, but this is just kind of like the title that they have. It's not like a brand new parenting style. I think it's all about like building a mutual relationship, having a certain respect with your kids. But to me, there's a fine line, which we'll get to. We can't be out here trying to be besties with our children. Like when they get older, yes, but when they're like growing and you're trying to teach them and lead them in a certain way so they don't get caught up in the world, you know, besties is like later on. In my childhood, there was a lot of like explanation. There was a lot of like, okay, this is why I said no, or this is why we're doing what we're doing, you know. And I think that helped develop our relationship to be what it is, me and my mom. So parenting is all about like positive reinforcement, communication, setting boundaries with empathy. So for us, to me, there's not every child can be gentle parented, you know. So I feel like there's this phenomenon of like, oh, you know, let's not, I'm not saying like every child, like you should be, some children should be beat and some people should be like gentle parented. No, not like that. But some kids need a little bit more like sternness. They take a little bit more than just that. For example, I feel like I was the type of kid that I was just like, I followed the rules. So I would just kind of like fall in line. Like, I don't really want to find out what's gonna happen if I break this rule. I'm not curious to figure that out. Or like they said like, oh, we finna go to the gym. It's time to go to the gym. I don't want to go off and see like, oh, what's down this hallway and this alleyway. Like I just never was that kind of kid. So I think it depends on your child and the maturity of your child and understanding like who they are, the relationship that you have with them, and what works for that child specifically. There are times where, you know, moments where I'm like, okay, let's sit down, let's chat about it. I'll let them feel out their emotions. Let's come back and have a conversation about what just happened, why we shouldn't do what we just did. Especially with siblings, you know, I think it's it's a big difference with like one child than multiple children. Trying to work that out amongst each other. There's moments where I'm like, look, y'all just have to figure that out. Like we can't go through every little thing and like be in tune with our emotions. Like, okay, what's going on, what happened? But then there are times where I'm like, okay, let's sit down, let's figure it out, what, you know, blah blah blah, because that's how they're gonna interact with other kids and other people around them as well. In the world, gentle parenting is such a big thing just because there were so many kids back in the day, I guess, that were not gentle parented, and what it was like straight like what I say goes, like no question about it, no why not, no why, none of that, da 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 da. And I feel like there's a certain extent to where we answer whys, because like our kids are now in the stage of like why, which is okay because they're learning, like that's part of toddlerhood. I think it's just a fine line to me for gentle parenting, because every kid doesn't go for, and a lot of people are like, well, it's just how you start them off, blah blah blah. And I'm like, no, the whole like let's sit down and talk about it doesn't work for every kid. To me, the alternative is not necessarily like, oh, they need to be like have a get a whooping or anything like that. But some kids benefit to me from taking a breath, taking a breather. I do wonder how it's gonna affect all the kids like that when they get older. I think it's a healthier way, and the alternatives to you trying to like practice gentle parenting of being like extra rough, I think what worked best for me was that I was communicated with. I think that sitting down and explaining, like for my kids, I know like before we're leaving a place or before something's about to happen, like if we're about to run out of the snack that they have, I'm letting them know like this is it. Or if it's pizza or whatever their favorite food, like let's say it's a food that they like, ooh, like we going in on it, I have to let them know like this is it. Like it works best for them specifically to have those conversations like there's no more cheeses, this is it, because otherwise a tantrum is coming, it's on its way, and we're trying to prevent as many, although that's part of development in childhood, trying to prevent as many, like, I'm just gonna let you know, it's no more cheeses left, it's no more pizza left, like this is it, this is the last slice or whatever. And I feel like that helps our kids, and of course they're kids, so like they do stuff that are, and I'm like, now y'all know good and well that was absolute no. And we put on our mommy and daddy voices. We not out here like, oh my gosh, like, no, we put on our mommy and daddy voices and they get emotional and they're like, we don't like that, blah, blah. But like right now we're in a stage of where they just cannot stand to be told no. And I'm like, I don't know where y'all got that from, because we've always told them like, no, da da da. Like sometimes it's just like no, but 90% of the time it's literally like, no, because blah blah blah. Y'all, we tell them no and it's a whole meltdown. And I'm like, we just go through different phases and stages or whatever. Started it since they were literally 1, when they would start breaking down crying. And I learned that kids just see red, like when they're in their emotions and they're like going crazy or wilding out. I used to be like, like y'all are tripping. Like before I had kids and I see that in the store, I'd be like, oh, they need to get them in check. Like they're, you know, they're wilding out. Like, you know, you're the best perfect parent before you're a parent, whatever that quote is. But you know, now I don't try to have those conversations with them. And I'm not saying I'm a perfect parent at all. This is just what's helped us like maneuver through this stage in life. But like we won't, when they have like an actual tantrum, and it's like, you know, because they're smart. Like I said, I feel like my kids are most parents probably say that, like my kids so smart, but no, like they're I think they're pretty smart in understanding things and what I tell them, because it helps. It has helped us get through a lot of things. The doctor, the dentist, leaving the park, going to the park, going to a kid's place, saying, hey, we got 5 more minutes, we got 10 more minutes. And no, we know, I'm about to let y'all know, like like you know how us moms do. We going to this store, we're not getting nothing. Like mommy's going in here to get some fruit and some milk, and that's it. Like just setting that tone and setting that standard, I feel like has helped the process. But like I said, every day is different. It's not all roses and sparkly clouds every day. Like no, obviously no. And I have boys too, so every day is different. Some days it's harder, and me and Amaya will be looking at each other like, what happened today? Like, y'all good? Like, why are we doing all this whining and this crying? Like, what happened? You have to step back and be like, okay, like they're still toddlers. Like that's what's difficult for me, because I know how mature they are and like how they can act, that when they start like whining or doing all that crying and stuff, even at this age, I'm like, whoa, what happened? Like this is not you. You know what I mean? It's kind of like if you have like a teenager and then like they switch, and you're like, but you were just this like abide by the rules, go by what mommy and daddy says type person or type kid, and all of a sudden like rebel, you know, like what happened? So those days do occur. What I learned is when kids are upset, like they just see red, literally. There's not like, oh, let's go fight, but they see red and they only understand what they can understand. They only comprehend their emotions at that moment. So I've learned to be like, okay, well now like go breathe, go calm down, and then when you're done, like they'll come back out of the, sometimes they go to the room, sometimes they'll just sit right next to us, whatever. And then once they're done, they'll come back and we'll have a conversation about it. Until parenting also, it helps the parent. Like people think like, oh well, like we're just trying to do this for the kid. Like no, it takes a lot of patience, a lot of understanding, a lot of empathy. And in my brain, sometimes at the end of the day, I have to replay and be like, okay, they're just kids, they're just kids, they're just kids. But don't think that, of course, like we don't be like, look, I'm finna give you the mama look and I'm finna snatch you up if you like, you know what I'm saying? Like we gotta get on them sometimes. Gentle parenting will have positive effects, but there's a fine line, because that doesn't mean that you just get whatever you want. That doesn't mean that you can just go do whatever you want and mommy and daddy are gonna be like, oh, that's fine, like no problem. You know, you still have to have boundaries. And I think that's the difference in parenting nowadays, is the boundary line is just real fine. Like, I have seen the whole like parents trying to be friends with their kids, or you know, being extra gentle. Now they feel like they could just run over their parents or do whatever it is they want to do. A lot of us are just out here trying to make sure our kids grow up in a healthy environment. I think another thing with gentle parenting is encouraging like independence, getting them to be like, you don't want them to be like full on independent like they're 12. Like, no, I'm not saying that, but you want your kids to be independent and like in control of their emotions, because I think gentle parenting helps kids realize their emotion and recognize how to control it, and then what to do with those emotions, let them out. Once you think you got something down pat, like, okay, finally, this is what they eat, this is how they go to sleep, da da da, and then the record scratches, and then it's a whole new like, oh, reverse, let's figure this out again, back and drive, let's figure it out. It's so like, it's bittersweet, because it's exciting because you get to see them grow, you know, you get to see them mature, you get to see like certain things that they'll do, and I'm like, how did you even know? Or they'll ask me questions, or they'll make statements, and I'm like, how did you even know that? Where'd you learn that from? Especially with them not currently being in school, because you know, a lot of stuff kids pick up from school or from friends, and you kind of like, yeah, they probably got that from such and such. But to be home with them and see them learning and growing and maturing is really good and helpful. Like, sometimes they'll just go do stuff, they'll just see something in the trash, pick it up, they know clothes go in the laundry room, they'll like, of course you have to tell them stuff, but oftentimes they'll be like, okay, let me just go put this in the laundry room. I've seen them, because sometimes I might catch them, I have to catch myself too, like I'll see them doing something and I'm like, oh nope, and then they're like, I'm just putting this away, or I'm just doing this, and I'm just, you know, like they'll take their time washing their hands and using the bathroom, and in my head I'm like, all right, what's taking them so long? But that's just what they do, they take their time, you know, they want to do things a certain way, and I'm not, who am I to stop them, you know? So trying not to like be helicopter parent and watch over them like, oh my gosh, like a hawk, is definitely it's a thing. Like, it depends on the environment. Trying not to like micromanage them, and you know, let them just do their own thing and learn and use their imagination. And my biggest thing is fostering independence. Basically, I just want them to be like, I can do this on my own. I don't need mommy and daddy here to do this, or I don't need my bro here to do, I can just do this on my own. That's my take on gentle parenting. Let me know your thoughts below. Is it something that you think will be effective and a positive outcome for kids in like what, 2035, 2040? Like, that's a long time, but you know, when they're all grown up and have to, you know, be their own person? Or do you think that gentle parenting is something that is making kids softer and making them a little bit more emotional? Sometimes I think that too. I'm like, are they a little bit like, does gentle parenting make them a little bit too emotional, like too in tune with their emotions? Is that possible? So comment below your thoughts, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.